Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditzies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to run. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome guys, Miss Liz in the house, and I am so happy to be here. I have an incredible lady in the back of the studio, Sherry Lynne Williams, and we're going to be sharing her tea today on Teatime. And as you guys know, Miss Liz doesn't serve a beverage. I serve their stories through their words and that. So today's story, tea, is adversity with humor, courageous with compassion, and transform with gifts and purpose. That is the tea we are serving today on Teatime with Miss Liz. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. We're going to get over to all those amazing platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all the podcast apps out there as well, Spotify, Listen Notes, Podbean, all those good platforms. Miss Liz is all over the place. If you want to see Miss Liz's Teatimes, I'm all over. So let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro. And we're going to get Sherry in here and we're going to spill her tea today with all of you guys. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Teatime live show. Miss Liz's Teatime is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Teatime show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Teatime platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guest viewers and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Teatime with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or check out Miss Liz's linktree at Miss Liz's Teatime. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Teatime with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Teatime with Miss Liz, where stories are not cleaned up for comfort. They are shared in truth, in courage, and in the power of transformation. Today's guest brings a story that many would try to hide, but she chose to own it, learn from it, and rise through it. Please join me in welcoming Sherry Lynne Williams, speaker, author, transformational guide, and creator of the Data Point Framework. Sherry's journey is one of the profound transformations from a past marked by addiction, survival, and self-silencing to becoming a respected scientist, leader, and guide for others working their own path of healing. She does not separate her past from who she is today. She integrates it. She teaches that every moment, every decision, every experience is a data point, part of a bigger picture that shapes who we are becoming. Her powerful book, Not Your Average Drug Addict Whore, A Life So Wrong It Went Right, brings her story life in a way that is raw, honest, and is deeply transformative. Challenging readers to rethink shame, worthiness, and what it truly means to change. Blending neuroscience, lived experience, and deep self-awareness, Sherry helps others release shame, reframe their past, and step into their full worth. not as a broken people, but as evolving human beings. Her message is bold and clear. You are not broken. You never were. So grab your cup and lean in. Today's tea time is about truth, transformation, and the courage to own every part of your story. Let me get Sherry in here and let's spill some tea. Welcome, Sherry.
Hi, thank you.
It is a pleasure to have you here. Sherry, so let's get started. Who was Sherry as a little girl and who is Sherry now?
Sherry, as a little girl, was very formed by the family structure around her and the impacts of male power, aside from the designation of right and wrong. She grew up in this mindset of how men hold a place within the framework of our life. And who Sherry is now, through the journeys that I've been and the changing of belief systems that I've been through, I understand that the way my life shows up is the way I have the beliefs of where it can form to. And I say that with great humility as I have been reflecting over the years of what it took to get my journey to where I am now as this scientist who, high school dropout, goes back to college at 45, graduates at the age of 50 with a bachelor's of science in biological studies, and escalated my way through all of the adventures that the life gave to me and offered me, and the benefits and the serendipities that I truly believe I also created for myself.
I love that you went back to school at 45 and 50 because you give all of my listeners that are mid-age the courage to go back and do it, right? We're never too old to go back to school. What was that journey for you, Sherry?
Of going to school?
Yeah.
Well, I had to start back at basic math, and I traveled my way through the courses of community college to 3 years of organic chemistry and calculus. So I was pretty impressed with myself the first time I derived. I really was the oldest in the classrooms, and I distinctly remember being in tutor session with all the others, and I finished this math problem that took 3 pages, and I got the answer right. So it was not easy, but I learned the tools that I needed. I learned I needed to record the lectures. I learned I needed to put them on this recorder and slow it down so that I could absorb everything the teacher said. I learned that I needed a tutor on many occasions, and I just took it on. And honestly, it was a whirlwind because I did it all in 5 years. It wasn't a back, but I want to say something that no matter what stage you are in life, it's really important to understand that you are not too old, that the evidence of me, I was around the age of 40 when I kind of got my stuff together, and that then took me into a workforce that society recognized, and I just journeyed my way through promotions and dedication to the job, and I was having fun with the work. And so next thing you know, I'm promoted to a very highly respected scientist position with the Department of Energy and a top secret clearance. So don't judge where you are now to where you can go.
Absolutely. And that's why I love having stories like yours on Tea Time, because you just never know when we're going to get our stuff together, right?
Yeah. And it's a perfect journey to get there. It really is.
Right? You're never too old to start over and go back to school or to recreate a business or just, as mothers, I know I found it really hard because I always wanted to do everything for my children. And I was just like, but I matter too. And I have to find my own way in life too, because these kids are going to eventually leave home. And then what's mom going to do? Right. So Sherry, let's talk about your book. I'm going to pull up the book. So we're going to be talking about Sherry's book today, but we're also going to be talking about some of the work that you do. But let's get into this book and explain the cover for the audio listeners who can't see the cover.
So the image on the book is a young girl who is me at 4 years old. And the impact that this has is we do not know the journey that we're about to live. And this was an impactful time for me because it is when the first nuances of male, and I'll say male power, it's not a negative thing, it just was at the time that this was when my journey began, and it's when the journey began in the book that this is who we are when we're children, and the journey of our life is unwritten until we write it.
So what age are you in this picture, Sherry?
I am around 4.
4. Do you want to share a little bit of what happened to you at 4?
Sure. The little disclaimer ahead, it gets a little deep here, but I had a grandfather whom we were during a Christmas party of family and relatives in a house that we lived in at the time. And my grandfather began a process that continued for, I don't even know how many years it continued, but I wouldn't say years because he kind of disappeared from my life, but he sat me on his lap and began putting his hands under my dress and fondled me until I came to an orgasm. And I didn't, of course, see any harm, any foul. It was a molestation that carried itself through the rest of my life as I began to see reflections of what men viewed the woman's body as, to kind of dance around the mindset that there are in this day and age. So this would have been in the late 60s, 1960s. And men had a way of managing women's lives. And also they impacted us in our mindset, how we showed up publicly. And I'll kind of leave it at that.
So Sherry, how did you get the cover, the name of your book? Not Your Average Drug Addict Whore.
During the phase of my life where I was an addict and the addiction brought me into prostitution, labels were put upon people. And this title was meant to grab the attention because people are drawn to the secrets. They're drawn to a deeper understanding. And so the drug addict whore are the derivatives of a slang that doesn't serve us, that we judge a person. And in my case, I would have been written off, honestly, if in this stages of my life. And the truth is, I wasn't written off. And the life so wrong it went right is all of those wrong moments in my life and the events of my life that created the journey became very valuable as I, in my later years, learned that I needed to own them, to understand that the shame was a byproduct of society's constructs and not my own.
I love that the wording, a life so wrong it went right, is right beside her, because that shows strength. And the smile on the little girl is strength. Being a survivor of abuse as well from family member, I totally get it. And the cover is just empowering, inspiring, and truly gives other people who are hiding in shame and that a voice as well. So what we have a question here is, this really makes me think, how did you find the strength to turn things around, Sherry?
It was a journey of watching myself. there's a book that I know is in me that has to do with this very top subject. I had an observer. That's what I call it. Be it source, an angel, God, but over time, the observer was very distant, and it was watching the steps I took, the moves I made, the shameful, there's that word, acts that traveled me down a path. And as I got closer and closer to being a witness to my own self in this journey, that observer began to get so close to me that I felt it in my heart, in my chest area. I didn't understand it then, what was going on, but it was guidance and it was direction. And that the closer I got to shifting and changing, the more that heaviness that I had felt in my chest, that discomfort became more joy, more light. And so the witnessing was part, and the belief systems that I had changed. So when I was the prostitute and the drug addict, I had a very deep belief, as I stated, about the power of men, and that I didn't really have control. I was a servant to my husband's needs and to providing the money to get the drugs for the addictions. And then on my own, I worked Las Vegas, and in that, the thread kind of continued, but I became less myself. And then here's a fun twist. I had a very dark moment, dark night of the soul, standing on a rooftop in Las Vegas, where I had just had a very, very scary moment with 4 men who were trying to rape me, and I was able to escape. And I ended up getting employment, we'll call it, at a brothel. And in that experience, I found safety. My nervous system got to relax. I had a sense of family around me. Someone had my back. I was safe. So my belief system changed once again to one that, hey, Sherry, you're okay. You're doing really well here. And I found a sense of my own self and a sense of empowerment, and even called myself an entrepreneur of sorts. And with that, I won't say my life changed after I left, but it was certainly the key element that I held within me that allowed me to relapse, to understand what life for me was going to look like, and to understand that I had the capacity and I had the ability to pretty much do what I wanted to do if I were to follow that. So there came a time I would look at classified advertisements and I would go, oh, that sounds fun. Oh, that sounds fun. I had no idea what these jobs were, but I had potential in me. I felt like, just do it and move. And so again, wasn't the last time I relapsed, but it was certainly the shift in belief systems. So I figured I had 3 different belief systems up to that point. And our beliefs can change, and what shows up in our life is reflective of those beliefs that we carry for ourselves.
Absolutely. Well, Sherry, we have a question here for you. What inspired you to finally share your story publicly?
Oh, I love this question. I, as the respected scientist I was, managing major projects, I had a hidden life, and I knew that I wasn't showing up fully. I didn't understand why, so I decided I would delve into the why. And it came down to shame, came down to embarrassment. And then I had to reflect that, why are you ashamed? You did the things that were needed at the time. You were in the place that you were at the time. And Sherry, isn't that what life's all about? So I sat down. The shame was the hardest. Breaking down the earlier parts of the story and finding what I call the golden thread of the mindset of power and men and my own belief system about who I was and how I could show up. it traveled me through. And then when I finally got down to the shame, it was society that was informing me that I should be ashamed. And I was able to take that shame and say, with dignity and with lack of shame, that guided me to be the person I am. And I even noticed that the work in the brothel, so different than the work on the streets of Las Vegas, showed me that men just wanted companionship. They just wanted someone to listen to them for a minute. And then I realized it taught me the compassion and love that I've carried into the woman I am now, that every person wants is to have connection and to be loved and to be listened to. And that was when I went, oh, wait, how can you be ashamed of that journey that brought you to these gifts? So
Absolutely. And that goes to your T, right? Transform with gifts and purpose. Your story gave you a purpose. A lot of people who haven't gone through these journeys will not understand the purpose, right? Taking the pain and turning it into a purpose. But the ones who have gone through these journeys will understand what we're talking about today. And we have a lot of listeners that are thanking you, Sherry, for sharing your story and inspiring them to share their stories as well. And you know, there's a lot of men that get misunderstood when it comes to brothels and that. Like you said, they're looking for companionship, right? But society tells us that that's not what that's for. You know, and you mentioned something that really stood out is society gives shame. Society gives shame on so many things in life. So, Sherry, what was the hardest moment in your transformational journey? We have a question from McCole about the transformation journey.
Can I have several?
Yeah, absolutely. You can have as many as you want, girl.
So the first one I mentioned was on the rooftop. I was feeling, how am I going to do something different? What job can I do? What else do I know? I was scared to death. And it was the moment that if I hadn't have had it, this is the irony, if I hadn't have had that dark moment in that room, the next pieces wouldn't have fallen into place. And so I say a moment of transformation was standing on that rooftop, scared to death, wondering what I was going to do. I answered a little tiny ad in the Penny Saver newspaper that sits in the rack outside the grocery store. And it was like, I was drawn to it. It was almost like there was like ethereal light and I was like, oh, I don't even know what this is. It didn't say brothel. It just gave some random description of a job. And so I answered it, and I ended up driving from Las Vegas to this little mining town called Winnemucca, Nevada. And in my story, I joked that there was more glitter in the backseat of my car on the dresses than there was in this entire town. So I work at the brothel. I have a conversation. So we're talking truckers who are on the road constantly. You know, they don't have a family, so to speak. There were business travelers. There were disabled men. And so it was all about bringing laughter to their life and listening to who they were. And so that was another transformation for me, is seeing a different side of humanity, and again, owning my own safety. That allowed me to feel very strong. And with that, this is a funny story. So I wanted to get back out in the business of society. So I said, well, I need a resume. And I had this gap of time, right? And so I said, well, what are the attributes of a prostitute? Basically, I came down to customer service.
Well, you know, and communication skills.
Exactly. Excellent communication skills, able to deal with difficult and challenging personalities. So I wrote this little paragraph in my resume to cover this time of various customer service positions.
I like it. You know, I would have never thought of doing something like that, but you got to fill the gaps in somehow, right?
Exactly. So with that transformation, I did enter the job market. I was offered the job that I filled out this resume for. But as life would have it, I took care of having a safe place to live. I made sure I could get to work every day. One of a 3-man office was an addict.
Oh.
And so I re-enter, I get this job. Out of 3 men, one addict finds another addict. And let's just say the journey continued. And the final transformation that allowed me to totally quit doing the drugs was being a witness to someone who was 100% clean and watching him pretty much lose everything. He was so proud of his new truck. He had just gotten approved for a home loan and was working on his new house. And in a matter of 6-8 months, everything just fell apart. And it was as if the universe was looking at me and my angels were like, so, do you see where this is going? Yep. And that was it. I looked at that and I said, no, because I had stopped for a couple years and I had a good job and I slipped back in because people who did drugs got into my universe, into my little circle. And that is the biggest no that I would tell anybody who's in any kind of drinking or addiction is you cannot have that element close around you. It just will not work.
You have to change the circle, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that with everything in life, right? You have to change circles if you want to grow, right? If you want to evolve. It doesn't only depend on trauma and abuse and stuff like that. In the business world as well, right? We have to change our circle sometimes. We have to leave tables and go to a new table. We have some questions that are coming in that I'd like to get out to you. And then I have some questions for you as well. And I want to get into the tea. So the first one I'm going to jump into is, because it's been here for a bit, just let me get it here, is how can someone start reclaiming their identity today, Sherry?
Sit down with yourself and close your eyes. Go from here, I say, go from your head down to your heart and feel. Bring your breath to your heart and just sit with this space as a question and listen for the answer. Bring out the questions of the elements in your life. What is it that you're looking to change, if that's where the question comes from? Bring in awareness of what are the things that bring you the most joy in life. From now, I feel the joy when I do my work. And if that ever stopped, I know that it was time to change direction. And I bring myself back to that rooftop because that was a moment when I had no idea what I was going to do next or where it was going to go. But what I've learned through life is that it guides you and it will take you as long as you listen. I call this the heart compass. And in this compass, it will never steer you wrong. Excuse me. So that would be the best place to start, is sit with yourself here and your identity will show itself.
And Sherry, the next question we have that's coming in from Anton is, how do you deal with shame from the past?
I no longer feel the shame because the awareness that I've brought to the understanding that the things that are considered shameful were labels put on by society. They are attributes that came to you through a series of activities that, well, I think we'll get to this later, that I call data points. And that when you bring your awareness to the moments, that shame then becomes almost a dignity that you can carry the journey that took you through. And that shame just goes, it's no longer a shameful thing. It was a moment that gave me power. It gave me sovereignty to myself, and it gives me actually great, almost pride in the journey that I took, because I did the things that I did along the way in the perfect form that my journey was bringing me to become who I am and who I was always meant to be.
And Sherry, from Lone Todd, we have, what role did support systems play in your transformation? We don't often talk about support systems, right? So let's talk a little bit about your support system.
I am an outlier in that I was ex-nayed from my family in my 17, 18-year-old moments. There are many times I've thought that if I had the voices of the family who already didn't think very highly of me, who already had labeled me the slut, the whore, I probably wouldn't have gotten out and be as strong as I am. I feel that the social conversation tends to want to make a person feel less than. And I feel that when we have these moments of things that we've done or things that we've said, it is the respect of ourself that leads to the dignity and the awareness that lets us move forward. And shame is just something that's going to hold us back. So it's look at the cause of that shame, as there can be a lot of different ones, because society likes to shame us a lot.
Then I love this comment that just came in from Dawn. Is your description about deciding what to do about shame is wonderful. Because shame puts a roadblock on so many of us until we say, you know what, I'm no longer shameful for what has happened to me. Sherry, how old were you when you were able to say that to yourself?
Oh, 40, probably 48, maybe almost 50. I think I was coming out of the college aspect. There was still historic shame that I can honestly say probably even 10 years ago, so 50 years of age, because I didn't understand it. And honestly, that's kind of why I'm here today, because it's important for us to reflect and to understand the power that we have and the power that we sometimes allow others to dictate upon us. And I'm a good person. I'm a good woman. Those moments of my life gave me a lot of tools that I carry today.
And we have a question here. What message do you hope readers take from your book? And I'm going to pop up the book again for the listeners that just popped into the live stream. Not Your Average Drug Addict Whore, A Life So Wrong It Went Right. And that is Sherry on the image on the book. So Sherry is sharing her personal story today with us, and we're going to get into a little bit of what Sherry does as well for work. So Sherry, what message do you want the readers to get?
This is not a book that's going to drag you down. It's not going to be heavy. There are stories that contain some serious subject matter. The hope from this is that every chapter has either a reflection or a revelation, that I tell a story and I journey us through, but there's always the takeaway that I follow each chapter with. And that's the hope, to see that it's all going to be all right. You're on a journey and it's all going to be all right. And that's the takeaway, is at the end that you see your journey is a powerful one, and you can accept and own and as I say, reframe the pieces of your life that maybe you want to keep hidden, and understand that they belong right up there in the light, that they're your foundation. They're the strong shoulders that you're standing upon today.
And Sherry, let's get into a little bit of what you do for work. I want to know a little bit more about this data point that you do.
So the data points framework, as the budding 50-year-old scientist who went to school and college and started having to manipulate with graphs and putting in research data points, it occurred to me in my 50s that that's kind of like life, right? We have the things that fall below the line of a graph are considered the things we don't want to see in a research. And then the things that come above the line are the things we witness and we record and we put in all of our reports. And I got to thinking that these little things down in the bottom half are like moments of our life that we go, oh, that was bad, or I was a victim, or somebody did something, or I did something to somebody. And we put them in the proverbial dark closet in the basement. We put a big lock on the door and we bolt it so nobody ever has to look at it. In my journey, in my 40s, 50s, I'm now 62, I found each time I brought light to a memory that I had of my past, a recollection of somebody doing something to me, what did it serve to keep it down there? Because it's who I am today. And I started to uncover all the really beautiful pieces of me that came from those dark times, all the things I did that I didn't want to talk about. And I'm showing up to work every day, but all of these things are kind of stifled. So as I call them data points, I started moving each one up. I started to reframe how I spoke about it internally. This isn't something that I'm going out and telling everyone, but please don't feel like this is the required journey for anyone else.
Everybody's journey is different, and that's why I really like, because you're giving them the opportunity to look at their journey in a different format.
Yeah. So in the data points framework, we revisit your story and like tell me your journey, and from that I can hear the pieces that you're attaching to that are not necessarily framed from what powers, what strengths, what resiliency did you get from that. So from those revisiting, we'll reframe the story, and then we take that and we move it into incorporating that new belief system into your everyday life.
So, Sherry, we have a comment here of somebody who read your book, and it says, I read Sherry's book and loved it. Her journey is inspiring and uplifting, and I appreciate all of the wisdom she shares about her lived experience.
That's so sweet.
So, Sherry, I have a couple of questions here for you from myself that I want to get out to you. And the first one is, your story is incredibly powerful. When did you first realize that your life could transform into something different?
When I quit, like totally quit with doing the drugs and began to see myself through a different lens. So it certainly hadn't all gone away at that point. And I tell people I started doing yoga because my weight trainer said that I was getting bulky. So I did this yoga and I started showing up different in meetings. And then I was like, what mojo did this yoga teacher put on me? So you know what I did with that? I went and took a 200-hour teacher training class for yoga so I could get the behind the scenes of what the mojo was.
I love it. What is this going to give me? Let me go and learn this a little deeper, right?
Yeah. And so, and it was fascinating, but that was when I started introspection. I started self-help reading. I started attending conferences. I started going to week-long events of transformation and motivation. And I read all the books that I could get and took in the ones that made sense to me. And some of them I got a couple chapters in and set them aside. So I think in my 50s, no, I started actually reading, and the yoga was in my young 30s. But that was the beginning. I just started getting everything because the yoga allowed me to see that I could think differently in a being present in the moment and still go, is that how I want to think? And gave me the power to start to see all the different changes I could make and what people had learned through their life. Yeah.
Well, we got some more questions coming in. This is an amazing live that is happening, and I am so glad that everyone is interacting and wanting to know Sherry's story, because it's these stories that actually make a difference. These are real change makers. These are people that, the underdog. I love the underdog, and I like getting these stories out there because people are just like, no, don't get that story out there. I'm just like, you know what? That story's coming to tea time. And that's what we're doing. We're sharing Sherry's story today. But we have a question here for you, Sherry, and it's what helped you shift your mindset the most besides yoga? Because you just shared on yoga. So what else did you use?
I used introspection of, there was a moment I didn't even realize that the journey I had made was a powerful one. True story. And it was as I started being a little more brave and sharing my past, because there was a woman who a lot of people feel like they want to open up to me, and that's a beautiful moment. The energy is accepting. And I kept hearing these stories. And so I started, sharing back some of mine, and the mindset of you're not broken, the mindset of the reflection of where you stand today, that you're not the only one who's had this journey, but yet the magnitude of the spectrum that I traveled honestly is unique. I just didn't know it. And so coming through the reading of, I have stacks of books. Oh my God, ask my husband.
You're like, probably like me. I'm a book junkie.
Oh gosh. Yeah. And you gain something from all of that. So the mindset shift came from evidencing myself and witnessing the journey that I had been on, and witnessing the powerful lessons that I carried forward, and now willingly accept that they may have come from a traumatic moment. It may have come from an unfortunate interaction. However, the strength and resiliency that I carry, and the brightness of sight, like I always am looking at everything with the brightest of perspective. And I think that is the mindset that I know if I live in that, that's how my life shows up. Hope that's not
Absolutely.
too corny.
You know what? I like corny. We don't all have to be straight line, right? We can be those roller coaster rides that are a little fun in life. Have some fun and humor. And that was part of your tea as well, was the adversity with humor. Is that how you got through the harder times, was the humor?
Mm-hmm. It was. It really was. And it also got me out of some sticky situations, things that could have been extremely harmful. Definitely the humor that, and the light heart, I think. Like, I remember some very dark moments of danger in Las Vegas, and it was a distinctive, like, I knew that there was danger right there behind me, but I showed up with the effervescent and the intention, and you could feel the danger dissipate from behind me.
And I use humor for my story too, because my story is heavy, and I put dark humor, and people are like, how can you put dark humor to that? And I'm just like, it saved me. Trust me. If I wouldn't have put that in there, I don't know where I would be. I'd be a mixed up teacup. I'm telling you guys.
Mixed up teacup.
Like, I wouldn't be a broken teacup. I'd be a mixed up one. It'd be like a mosaic coming together. And it kind of brings me into the question I have for you, Sherry, is you say you are not broken, you are becoming. What does that mean to you on your hardest days?
Being in a place where the career of scientist is behind me at this point. I'm on a journey. I'm now at the mountaintop, I say. And on that mountain ridge top is a path. I don't know where it's necessarily going to, but I'm taking that journey. And it will give me forks. It will give me chances for more introspection. I'm certain of it. But that is the becoming. I can't put a pin on where the becoming is. I can just take the steps. I can hold the beliefs that I have and understand the journey that I've been on, and see and witness that these beliefs are going to be my life in the future, because I do believe it.
So let's talk about this wisdom gateway. What is wisdom gateway?
Wisdom's gateway is the key that I came when I started writing my book, which has had numerous derivations before it proposed itself in the current form that it's at. It is, you can't take your baggage with you. You can't go forward with this backpack filled with heaviness and filled with the perceptions of what you've lived. So the gateway is when you walk through and you set that bag down, you lay out all the old stuff and understand what it is you're taking forward.
I like that. Put that bag down. Put that baggage down. It gets
Yeah,
heavy after a while.
One of my friends calls it like going through TSA checkpoint. I'm sorry, you can't have that and come through here.
You didn't claim that through customs. Not allowed to go any further.
So keep in mind, we're all becoming, all of us. Who you are today is not who you have to be even tomorrow. Things can change and shift in a moment's time, in a moment's perception, and how you show up for the next thing that comes across.
Absolutely. Well, what advice would you give to someone still struggling today, Sherry?
Absolutely do not define any relapse or any perceived failure as the way it is and the way it always will be. That, again, it's the observer showing up, that understand the acceptance and understand the power and the opportunity that's given to us when we're struggling. Because if we're struggling, if this doesn't feel right, there's your heart compass right there. It's telling you what do we need to do to make this better. And if life is really sucky, take the least sucky path. Show up with the best you can be in the if it's the job that you don't like, be the most amazing person. And I also say there's a process to really identify what are the top things that you'd like to see in your life. Because we're bombarded with 84,000, 94,000 thoughts a day, whatever the number is. And if you don't have those top 5 things for you, you're going to be inundated with a bunch of things that don't apply. But if you know what you are looking for in the next step, you're going to be more apt to hear it. You're going to see a billboard with a phone number. You're going to hear and overhear conversation standing in line at the grocery store. You never know. But when you have that attention and you understand what it is that you'd like to see your life look like, then those opportunities, they're there, but we're so bombarded that we don't always see them. So that would be it.
Absolutely. And we have a comment here that I want to get out to the audio listeners. If you're seeking help, 988 is a good text and call national hotline for anybody that is struggling. And if there was anyone that was triggered during today's tea time, make sure to reach out to Miss Liz. Miss Liz is here for support as well. And also, Sherry, I want to get into some little fast, fun questions here before we wrap up because the time is just flying by. And I want to get some of my questions out too, guys. I appreciate my listeners, but I want to get some of my stuff out. Sherry, let's do some lightning bolt questions right now. One word that describes your journey.
Fantastical. Yes, it has been a fantastical journey.
Okay, somebody messaged me and I lost that. What did you just say? What was your one word?
Oh, fantastical.
Oh, I like it. And whoever's trying to call me, I'll call you back later. Courage or compassion, which comes first for you?
Oh my, you've hit a. Can I sit on the fence?
You might hurt.
I'm going to go with compassion at this point in my life. I think if you had asked me maybe 30 years ago, I could have gone the other, but I think in today, compassion.
And hardest truth you learned about yourself?
Hardest truth? I am a person who understands all sides in most cases. And the hardest truth is that I will not always have a definitive answer or direction to provide.
Oh, interesting. Do you want to get a little deeper into that?
Because we are all on our individual journeys and we are all very unique, and those moments from our data points are individual and unique, that the next piece is I can coach and help and we can talk through. But what one person might see as not the highest road and what another person might is the distinctive moment that they're on along that journey. And it's not going to be the same for everyone.
And I love that you said that it's not going to be the same for everyone because everyone's journey is different. There might be some similarities, but everyone's journey is different. And that's why we do different teas here and we serve different teas and we spill different flavors because not one journey is the same. There might be similarities in the stories, but not one is the same. And that's why each tea makes a difference.
And that's the beauty of you are such a beautiful person and I have my journey and I'm a beautiful person. And this other person, the person living on the street is a warrior. They are on a spiritual journey that is in the spectrum of darkness that many of us will never understand and travel, but they are still a being of light and a true warrior on the path that they are choosing to live at that point. And there is no judgment or suspect of where they will end up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and having these stories shared and through writing our stories, you know, we give hope to others that are still living in that shameful society, understanding. You know, this is one wish I hope I can break through tea time is society shame, society beliefs. You know, start believing in yourself, start believing in your story, your cups, your teas, because that's how we're going to make a difference. It's not what society thinks of us, it's what we think of ourselves. And that's what gets us through these journeys, really hard journeys. Sherry, what does today is it mean to you?
The elements of our past don't matter in the form that they felt when they occurred. Today, you are the accumulation of all of those moments and events. And today is the now. And now anything can happen. Anything can happen.
And if your life were a message, what would it say?
Believe in yourself. Yeah.
And Sherry, what message would you have, like a final message for anybody out there that is ready to share their story or willing to reach out to you with Wisdom Gateway? What message would you have for them?
There's never a point that it's too late. You're not, again, you're not broken. That the journey you've been on has been perfect to the point that you're at, and tomorrow is an open and welcoming door for whatever you choose to bring. But it's never too late. I didn't get my stuff together until I was in my 40s, and never imagined that I would be a top level respected scientist when I was hoofing around in my 20s and 30s.
Let's get that out a little bit. She's a scientist, guys. Talk to us a little bit about that. How did that impact your life?
Oh my goodness. Well, when I started at college, I was doing construction inspection majority, but part of the journey was me answering all those classified ads and going, oh, that sounds fun. That sounds fun. And I would show up with such anticipation and joy, and that the people who were hiring, like, she has zero experience, but she seems like she could just jump right in and take on. So I gained a lot of skills. And then when I graduated from school, the ability to look at the outside the box, because I lived outside the box for so long, became a huge asset to the processes that we were working on. I worked at Camp Pendleton Marine Corps Base. I worked in Japan. And my outside the box thinking really elevated me in the eyes of leadership. And that led to promotions, and that led to, oh, she's really good at this. Let's put her into that. I went from mission critical type details in the Department of Defense to coming on with Department of Energy. And at that point, I did compliance. So sat in some fun meetings and did a lot of good stuff for the environment and managing the water specialist program. So it's, just saying yes to the things that feel light and right.
Oh, I like that. Just saying yes. There's so much to take away from this tea time, and, and courage and compassion and empathy and inspiration. Like, there's so much coming from today's tea time, and all the listeners that are throwing their comments in and their questions. Thank you for that so much. Sherry, you gave me one word. I want to do that, and then we're going to wrap it up with a rerun of what we did today. You gave me the word unique to describe yourself. Why'd you give me that word unique?
Did I say unique?
Yeah, you said unique. Are you changing it today? She's changing it. She's not unique today. Did I do that?
Well, what comes to me when I hear that word is the capacity that I've grown to understand that my thoughts create the life that I bring forward. And I say unique because there are many who would view it from the outside lens that would probably give it different names. And I choose to think that I'm unique because I was able to take those dark moments, turn them into treasures, and show up today and be a light, we hope, to send out to the many.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to pull up your book again one more time. Let everybody know where they can get this book and your website, if you could just spell it out for all the audio listeners.
Oh, it's wonderful. So the book name, Not Your Average, Drug Addict Whore, A Life So Wrong It Went Right. This book is available on Audible, and it is narrated by myself. It is available in Kindle and also paperback. Wisdom, oh, and find it on Amazon. Wisdom's Gateway. So it is WISDOMS Gateway, GATEWAY.com. And on that, you'll find some free access that I put on to a 3-step guide to unpack your past. And with that, there's a little masterclass that might come available. I'm available for speaking and keynote, and I look forward to making impacts with workshops as I continue to grow.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm just going to do a wrap up of what today's tea time was. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining in, and some giggles and some, some rabbit holes that we had some fun. And that's what tea time is all about, guys. So I did have a comment here. Anybody that wants to make a donation to Miss Liz, if you go to my website, Miss Liz's www.misslizsteatimes.com, you can make a donation there. But I really encourage you guys to share these tea times. That's how you can help Miss Liz. Share the tea times, because they help the guests and they help save a life with somebody else that the story may resonate with. That's the way that you can make a donation for Miss Liz. Share the tea time. What a powerful and honest awakening conversation. Sherry, thank you for your courage, not just in what you lived, but in how you choose to share it so others can see themselves differently. Your story and your book reminds us that transformation is not only possible, it is already happening when we choose to look at our lives with awareness and compassion. This afternoon, we were reminded that shame loses its power the moment we stop hiding and start understanding. That every experience, even the painful ones, hold meaning when we allow ourselves to see it as part of our journey, not the end of it. Your work challenges us to rewire the way we see ourselves. Here is something to carry with you after this tea time. What if your story didn't go wrong? What if it went exactly the way it needed to bring you to where you are today? To everyone listening, your past is not your prison, it is your data. And that is what we choose to do with it. Becomes your power. Until our next cup, keep sharing, keep going, keep growing, and keep choosing to see your story as something meaningful, not something to hide from. And I'll see everybody at 7 p.m. and we'll do this all over again.